So I have come to give my testimony. On the 5th of October, I discovered a lump in my breast. And on the 7th, I went for an ultrasound mammogram, which confirmed that indeed it was an abnormal lump. And I was further scheduled to have a biopsy on the 15th of October. And I went on to do the biopsy. When the results came out, when the biopathology report came out, it came out that it was a benign borderline phyllodes tumor. What is a phyllodes tumor? We didn't know what it was. It's a very unique type of tumor, not a lot of people know about, even in the medical community. So we decided what was the kind of treatment that was going to happen. First of all, we referred to a chemotherapist. Chemotherapist was like, this is not his area. It would have to be surgery or radiation, and that began the journey. So every week I was in the hospital trying to figure out what was the next plan of treatment. We're now referred to a surgeon who would take out the tumor from the breast, and this was happening on the right breast. But I continued. I kept praying on the altar of fire. I kept declaring that I am healed. I went in for the surgery. During the time I was waiting to get my pathology report, I would often see, the word malignant. And when I got my report back, it came back that indeed it was malignant. They had used some terms in the report. Not only was it malignant, they said it was a infiltrative stromal overgrowth liposarcoma. Again, that was confusing for the medical community again, because with a phyllodes tumor and with the size that I had, which was only 2.1 millimeter, you're not supposed to have a stromal overgrowth. It's not supposed to be infiltrative, neither is it a liposarcoma. And a liposarcoma is totally different. So they kept saying and I remember, even though I had the report, I would say, you would talk about sarcoma, you kept calling sarcoma, and I always claiming that I am healed in the name of Jesus. I didn't know, in fact, the pathology report was very confusing. It was very confusing to all the medical professionals that read the report. So it got to a point they had to take it to the tumor board. They came back to me and said, okay, that the options were I would have to have another surgery. And after the surgery, I would also have to do radiation. And then the chemotherapist was like, well, there's also a mention of a liposarcoma here. So he said, I need to have a mastectomy. There were just so many opinions. I was now put in to go see a radiation oncologist. Whilst I went to see the radiation oncologist looked at my report halfway through my consult. He stops. He's like, wait, there is a mention of a liposarcoma in here, so that he's not going to continue with the consult until he takes it to the tumor board for them to review this properly, to review this pathology properly, and then he can move forward. I said, okay. So I called my surgeon, and then between then I was deciding between having a full mastectomy or a lumpectomy. Some quarters were like, have a full mastectomy. It's going to help you prevent any reoccurrence. But my spirit just didn't sit with having a full mastectomy. I was always crying, very miserable. I knew that God did not want me to have a mastectomy because the year before I had had a hysterectomy. And I just felt like the devil was attacking everything that I was as a woman. The tumor board finally met. The tumor board said, okay, again, I had to make a decision. It's either I go with mastectomy or I go with a lumpectomy. I said, no problem. Jesus will make up the difference. I'm not going to have a mastectomy. And then it was time for me to have the actual surgery. So it was scheduled on January 8th. January 8th, I'd been praying, believing, consistent on the altar of fire. I was always praying. Pastor Jory would pray. On the 30th of December, I remember someone giving a testimony that they're saying something about they had a rare form of cancer. It wasn't the same as mine, but it was a rare form of cancer. 2 years later, something about 2 years, and the person was going back in 2 years to have the surgery. Mine was 2 months. I claimed it. I said, okay, that is 2 years for that person, but it's 2 years for me, because I kept praying. I said, why can't Pastor Jerry mention my own case? That same night, I had gone to sleep, and I remember waking up with this song, Dansa Kire Baba. I don't know the words of the song. I just know the part of the song says Dansa Kire Baba. And I kept trying to remember the other parts, but I couldn't. But on that day, on the altar of fire, after the person gave the testimony time, the song Pastor Jerry raised was that Dancer Kire Baba, and I was, yes, God has remembered me. God has seen me. So many words of knowledge kept coming from the altar. Tumors, breast cancers are being reversed.
Any woman with any breast cancer, by the power that raises her from the dead, let it be reversed.
And so on the 8th, we went in for the surgery. We decided to do the lumpectomy. They would take out the tissue, replace it, all of that, and it was done. So they touched the other breast as well to be able to get tissue. When my results eventually came out, I believe 5 days later, the results read negative for anything, everything and anything. There was no remnant, nothing. They tested even the left breast, nothing, negative. There was no sign of infiltration. There was no stromal overgrowth. There were no masses, nothing. God had healed me. So I'm back here to testify to the goodness of God.